Good morning, and welcome to the Comix Experience Graphic Novel of the Month Club meeting. This is for September, because that's what month it is. And our book this month is Debian Pearl, Digital Detective, by, and I'm going to look at the book because there's three of you, and otherwise I would totally space. And they're not sitting in order. Okay, so we have Lauren Davis, we have Katie Longua. Did I get that right? Longua. Oh, so close. And then Mel Hilaro. And they're here to talk about this great book. I thought this was a lot of fun. I liked this a lot. You guys all liked it here? Yeah. No. Did you like it? Yeah. We practiced this, guys. It's okay. Yeah, that's cool. No, that's fine. That's fine. All right, so here's my first question. It's always the first question, but why comics? Of all the things you could be doing in the world, why comics? Maybe we'll just go across the line.
Oh, okay. So I'm gonna go first.
You're gonna go first.
I really love comics. It's a really great way to tell stories, to tell all sorts of stories that you present them in a different way than you present prose. You really sort of get to put your brain on the page in a very intimate kind of way. In this case, it was the weird meld of the three of our brainchild is just kind of splattered across the page. Right. And I just think that's really exciting, and you get that in a very different way than you get in a lot of other media.
Yeah.
What got you into comics? Did you read them from an early age, or was it later on?
Oh, that's a good question. So there was not a comic book store in my town. I actually didn't have a comic book store until late in high school when I would go with a friend and we would buy every other volume of Sailor Moon. So I would buy half the volumes. And
that's so good.
The volumes because they were really expensive. And the internet really got me into comics. I read some of the early web comics that went up.
That's awesome.
Back when very few web comics were on the internet.
That's awesome. Yeah, I asked because I read comics from before I could read. My mom was into them. She grew up reading the Beano.
Okay.
And so that's what I had, and so I always wanted to draw comics, and I never really thought of it as something that could be a career until it just kind of started happening to me.
Did you study comics?
So I studied illustration because I thought that maybe it was a safer path to go down. And then, at every turn, I just ended up working on comics more and more until suddenly it was basically what I was doing full time. It's definitely what I feel the most passionate about. It's just so fun to tell, a story through so many pages.
Sure. Yeah. And Mel, how about you? Why comics?
I actually kind of fell into the comics world just by surprise. I did read comics as a kid. I remember my story is that my brother and I got this big box of old comics that our uncle had that was old Spider-Man, old Hulk, from when he was a kid, and we would spend summers just reading them.
Right.
And then my mom took the box of comics out.
Oh, no!
We were really old issues and we don't want to talk about it. Yeah, but we had this old Spider-Man, old actually She-Hulk. We had She-Hulk, Daredevil. So,
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then I went about, grew up, and got training as a writer. So I went to school to be a writer, creative writer. So short stories.
Yeah.
I've started many novels and not finished them, and so I fell into looking at comic scripts with Kate and Lauren, and I just loved it. I thought it was really, like Lauren was saying, a great way to tell stories, and the thrill of seeing something from your imagination live on the page. Kate would draw something, and we'd be like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing!" It is so thrilling. So it kind of imprinted on me. So now I'm here. I've gotten the bug.
I didn't ask you, Lauren. Did you go to school for writing?
Yeah, so I was a blogger for many years.
Okay.
I worked for a website called IO9 where I wrote about science fiction all the
Yep.
time. And then I decided to get my master's degree in comics because that sounded like an awesome career path. It actually worked out. So let that be a lesson to you. Follow your dreams. And yeah, so I went to school here at California College of the Arts for comics.
Very good. That's a good program.
Yeah, it is.
Great program.
Yeah. So how did the book come about?
So we were all working together at our day job, and actually somebody asked us to do this comic. We were working with the publisher, and they told us that they really wanted us to write a book about computers and computer science.
Okay.
And we actually, like, with a bunch of our friends, like, came up with a bunch of characters and sort of like sent them off to like see what people liked, and the favorite character that everybody liked was Debian Pearl.
And a frog.
So where were you guys working together? What was the day job?
So we were working for an educational toy and comic company in Oakland.
Okay.
And so we've been doing a lot of educational comics. They've been mostly about history and anatomy, and the publisher came to us and they were like, "We want you to try something new."
Yeah.
And so yeah, we learned a lot of things
Yes,
in
love
the
things I did
making
not know
of this
before.
comic. We were learning a lot about computing and computer science, like,
Okay.
and a lot of the things that Digits learns throughout the book are things that we learned in the process of making the book.
It was a little scary when I heard we had to do a computer science book. I was like, oh no. This is going to be hard. But it's a good test case, because I figure if I can understand it, then, you know, you could get this test for like, okay, this is clear and this is an educational, you know, moment. So, yeah.
For me, it was really exciting because my dad's an electrical engineer, and he always wanted me to do that. And he was always supportive when I left for art school, but I always felt like a little bad because I knew what he wanted, and so it was really nice to work on the book. Because I was like, hey, look, all the things that we talked about, like I'm putting them into the book.
Yeah. And so when you say the publisher came to you, you didn't put a pitch out. They, out of the blue, came to you? How does... I'm curious about that. I haven't heard that one before.
Yeah, it was an unusual situation. I don't know, Katie was probably the most involved in what was actually happening behind the scenes.
Oh man, it was because our friend Sam had been working with them previously, so they already kind of knew our work and that we were interested in doing a book, and because it was Langforge at the time, even though Odie's taken over
Sure.
a lot of things now, they were looking to do more educational books in general. So we kind of built a pitch for them based on that idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And because it was a little bit more of a collaboration, they had a little more input on, you know, they helped us design the characters. But I think from the start, the setting that I had pitched was like, oh, let's do this like kind of Blade Runner style sci-fi world, and that really stuck from the very beginning.
Cool. So I was there a sort of a traditional pitch document once you got it sort of organized in your head between them?
Yeah, I mean, we had to come up with, you know, who the characters were, what the world was, and we had sort of like a basic skeleton of the ideas of the kinds of stories that would take place in that world. And so there was a formal pitch document. I think probably the major difference was, I would say, that this story was probably less built out than you would usually see in a pitch document. And so that came later, sort of after we had all agreed to work together.
Okay.
And so basically, like, after documents were signed, then we really sat down and figured out, like, what is the outline of this
particular story.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's great. What's the process on working on an issue? What issue? The book.
So it's funny because now I feel like we know very much what this process is.
Yeah,
but at the beginning we were like, oh, well, we have to, because this is the first time that the three of us had done a full-length graphic novel.
Yeah.
Any of the three of us had done a full-length graphic novel. We've done closer to single issues
Yeah.
before.
Right.
And so what happens is that we all work on the story. We all sort of talk about the general shape of the story, what kind of things we want to cover, like what our learning outcomes are. we actually now have an additional person, Sean Marney, who we work with, who is actually a computer scientist.
And a comics maker.
And a comics maker.
So, skill set.
And so he has been very helpful in the outlining process too. And then we generally come up with like a really, really detailed outline. And then we send that to our editors, and they give us feedback, we do rewrites.
I like this part because generally I just sit around and yell ideas.
We apologize to Katie for things that we're going to make her draw.
Yeah.
I've been told many times I can't make that happen. Alright.
Yeah.
Do you have a common workspace? Are you doing this over the phone or?
We used to have a common workspace.
Yes.
Now we're a little decentralized, and so we basically just have meetings where we all hang out and yell things at each other.
Yeah, many text threads as well.
Yeah, lots of text threads, Slack.
Slack fans.
It's nice to still be able to meet up in person though, because
Sure.
I know a lot of teams are really spread out.
Yeah.
We're all local, so
Yeah.
that's helpful.
Yeah, I mean, one of the nice things about this is of us working together in the same space is like if I have a question while scripting that like if I have a problem that I need to solve, it's a lot easier for me to just like walk over to Katie's desk and be like, I have this problem.
Oh yeah.
How do we solve this problem without me totally destroying your hands and
Yeah, because oftentimes you'll get a script and it will be completely finished, and then you're trying to translate that into drawings. But it was really fun for me to be more involved in the writing because I could say like, oh, it would make so much more sense visually if you like just tweak this a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah, and then when Katie would have edits, which I think an artist always has edits,
Yeah.
I think. But like when you would have edits, like you would just come to us and be like, hey, I'm gonna do this way instead of the way that you wrote it, and we're all like, cool. That sounds awesome.
So how does it work with two writers? How are you? How do you make that work? Super curious.
Mel writes the puns.
So Lauren said of me, and I consider this a big compliment, is that Melanie's writing style is a little more freewheeling.
Yes, that's true.
Whereas Lauren's a little more structured, which is actually a really good compliment. I feel like we work really well together.
Yeah. I'm the dev, I'm the angry order.
Yeah, I'm the crazy digits. No. But I feel like it's great because one of us, when you're writing it yourself, it's such a solitary, pursuit.
Yeah.
And it's easy to be like, oh, this is hard, I don't want to do this anymore. And so when one of us goes through that, the other one's like, come on.
Yeah.
We can stick a frog here, and then we'll put some cats in a cafe, it'll be amazing. So I think it's good we keep each other going. That's how I feel.
Yeah, I feel like you keep the process going a lot faster.
Yeah. And what's nice is because like I'm the like annoying strict like formal structure person, and Mel is the like make everything cool and fun person. Is I can sort of work forward. I mean, the problem with everything is always finishing it.
Yes.
And so like I can just like go through and be like, here are all the panels, here are all the pages, here are the things that need to happen, and then I don't need to make it good.
But you finish it, which
I finish it
because I wouldn't do that.
and then Mel comes up behind me and she like makes all the dialogue like sparkling and beautiful, and she tweaks things and is like, maybe it would be more fun if we did this here instead of this, and oh, like you totally forgot that this character exists, and and so it's great because it makes the process just like so much faster, and for me personally way more pleasant.
Yeah, I agree.
What would be the biggest differences that you guys would say between doing a small comic, 20, 30 pages, and doing a big book like this?
Katie.
Oh man.
Yeah, let's start with the art.
Definitely like pacing. For me, drawing a short comic is like a sprint. So oftentimes I'm working like all day long, like 16 hours for weeks to like finish the little thing. But with this book was 189 pages. Like you can't just try to sprint all the way through that. So I really had to schedule my time out exactly. I feel like maybe this is the less exciting part about making comics.
But it's a part that's important to hear about.
Yeah. So I really, really carefully planned my time out so that I knew every week this is what I need to complete in that week, so that I could have time to take a weekend off and actually sleep, please sleep.
Sleep is required. for
It's
artists.
very important for drawing and general life things. So yeah, for me that was some of the things that I thought the most about, is just scheduling my time properly.
Sure.
And then also, I guess, finding places in the book to put really fancy art versus like less complicated things.
Okay.
Because over a short project, you could really make every single page like really detailed and lots of crazy things happening. But over 189 pages, you need to kind of save yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So some pages I did like several in a day, and there's some pages that I spent an entire day on just one. Like the scene when they first walk into the factory. Yeah,
So many
is
robots.
like maybe the single most difficult page in the whole book for me to draw.
Right.
But I'm really happy with it because I think that when you're flipping through it, it stands out because of the level of detail.
Yeah, for sure. Overall, what was your production like, Katie? Like a page a day? More than that?
So I broke it down. So I was working on roughs, and then because I tried to keep my roughs pretty tight straight to inks.
Okay.
So I was trying to do about 2 a day.
Okay.
But it also kind of depends, yeah. So sometimes, I'll do 1 page in 1 day, and then like 3 or 4
Sure, of course.
the simpler ones.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So 3-4 months, give or take, to draw the book?
So for me, it ended up happening over 7 months.
Okay.
Yeah, I can say it as well.
Yeah. But that was also because we spent a lot of time designing the logo and the cover, and there was a lot of other things that went in
Character
during
design.
those 7 months. Yeah.
So same question to the writers. The difference in writing for that short space versus writing for a much, much larger space, that really changes the process, right? Especially because you've got this other thing where you have to put all this computer science stuff in.
Yeah.
That has to be in there. Yeah. So.
Sorry.
You go ahead.
I'm taking a breath. Book 1 was creating a whole world, so it took Lauren and I some time to, you're talking character design and naming our characters. Like that was, we put a lot of thought into that. What they're gonna wear, like lots more Katie, we collaborate. What's the name of the shop gonna be? Why should we name this? What about mapping out the city? I can't even remember how long it took.
Sort of
us
like
actually.
living in the world.
It was a lot, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot more world building than in smaller books.
And before the comics that we were working on before that were short form, we had a lot of characters in a very tiny number of pages, and we didn't have, and there was also educational content. And here we very deliberately had far fewer characters, and I think the biggest difference was that there's a lot more space for the characters to have like emotional arcs, and for them to like change and grow over the course of the book. And we tried to integrate the coding so that they sort of go hand in hand with a lot of those emotional changes.
Right.
But just like giving like digits the space to like be upset and to screw up, and for Deb to screw up in a lot of ways.
Both adults and kids
Yeah.
grew up in our comics.
Yeah, it's very
You're
important.
allowed.
It's very important for characters to screw up and make things better. I feel like that was like a real nice thing that we had space to have in a full-length graphic novel that we just never had room for in shorter works.
Oh yeah, I like drawing like the little quiet moments a lot, and you get more room for that in a bigger book.
Yeah, absolutely. How about you guys in the audience? Do any of you have any questions? Oh, there's one. Yeah, all in the back. Yes, you. Yes.
question.
Yeah, fair honor. Yeah, definitely honor. We modeled the city. We mentioned this in the book. We modeled the city on our city. Well, we all live in different vicinities of it, but Oakland, California, which is where I live, and that's where our workspace was before. So we just kind of center around the Bay
If
Area.
you look at the map
Yeah.
of Megalopolis next to a map of Oakland, I think you will
just
find
lay it right on top.
a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
In front.
When did you write the book?
When did we write it?
Oh, do you remember exactly when you started?
Oh my gosh, when did we start writing the book? I think it was 2 years ago. It was a long time
I think
ago.
it was a little maybe over 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So it took about a year.
Wait.
The whole
The whole process.
Yeah, the whole process.
And then it had to be printed and
yeah. So it's a long.
That is kind of a tough thing about a
It's a long
longer
journey.
book.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
that from when you start it to when it actually comes out is a pretty long time.
Yeah.
And sometimes, especially when everything is done, because there was still, when everything was finished, there was still maybe 5 or 6 months before the
Yeah.
book actually came out.
Yeah, you can look at
That is like the most torturous period of time.
That's true.
Because the book is done, but
Yeah.
you can't talk to anyone about it for like 6 months.
So we just talk to each other.
Yeah.
That's
I
good.
see hands.
Third row. Yep.
Are you gonna make another book?
we hope so.
We have a couple stories we want to tell. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
There are plans. For
If
the
you
second.
if you could, how many do you think you would do?
Well, we talked to Lion Forge about 5.
So yeah.
Mhm.
5 books. Like
We would like to.
Yes.
we would like to do all 5 books.
And just for my curiosity, do you have 5 different coding lessons that go with that all planned out already, or you're gonna cross that bridge when you get there?
There's a couple of things. We have a couple of synopses that we've mapped out. New characters, and so sometimes as you write the book, 2 things pop up like, oh, we can put that in there. Like that's a good time where it's an opportunity to do this other thing. So
Sure.
Yeah. And,
Oh,
and
yeah.
we're also influenced by like what's happening like right now in
The world.
tech and the news. I mean right now, there's so much right now about like algorithms and how they impact our lives and
cybersecurity.
right,
Yeah.
which like is important. Like it sounds like a big and scary word, but it's like important to everybody.
Right.
Like who gets on a computer ever.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I really enjoyed about working on the book is that we really worked to make sure that the learning is pretty integrated with the story.
Yeah.
So we're always thinking like what the next story is going to be. How can we make it match up with what you're going to learn?
Yeah.
So it's not just like random.
I actually want to ask you guys, since we have you all in a room, 2 questions. The first question is, do you want to see another book?
Yes.
Yeah. That looked pretty unanimous to me. Yeah. And the second thing is, did you feel like you were learning something when you read the book?
That's awesome.
But not like you didn't think like you still like the story, right? Yeah. That's the important part. Yeah. Very good. With the white shirt right here, I think you had a question. Yeah.
If you made a second book, what do you think the name is gonna be?
Well, we have a name. We
I
might
think
have.
that I'm allowed to say it.
Are you allowed to
because
say it?
They
Okay.
showed it.
Yeah, without any other.
So
no more
the
details though.
Name of the second book is Attack of the Robo Bunnies.
Robo bunnies, I like that.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, you.
You need to publish that soon.
Thank you.
Would it be a sequel or a whole
Don't forget to
different
put cats in there.
Oh, it would be a sequel.
Yeah. Each book should be able to stand on its own as a story, but it'll have the same characters.
Yeah.
In the back.
Would you want to make a lot of sequels and books after it, or would you want to make other books that weren't related to this story?
Oh, both of those
Yeah,
things.
yes.
For sure.
We like to do both.
Very good. Yeah.
So how did you come up with the name Egg for the brand? Because it kind of
Oh, I don't
a
know.
little
The
bit of
answer to that.
similarity between egg and apple.
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel like that might have been you.
I feel like it was you. So we're at the point now where we work together for so long. we don't know who wrote what, and sometimes
Yeah.
I'll be like, "That's really funny, Lauren," and she's like, "You wrote that." I really think it was you that did the egg.
Really?
I really think it was.
I don't remember which of us did the
I
egg.
think you came up with Omelet Corporation.
I did
yeah.
come up with
Yeah,
omelet,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I think you might have come up with the egg.
Okay. So we don't.
But Katie was the one who decided that it looked like a Game Boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, you don't have to answer it, but I couldn't really tell. Are both Debian and Digit girls?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so this brings a question I wanted to ask too, that you're an all-female creative team,
Yes.
doing a book that is STEM, let's say. Did you get any pushback from anyone for that?
I don't really think that.
We got some mild
I
pushback.
must have blocked it out.
You probably did
Like
block it
pushback?
out.
We're doing this.
I guess, I mean, this would be a good question for the boys in the room as to whether they felt any way about the characters being women.
Yeah, I think at least at some point in time it was brought up, like, is it really a good idea to have both of the main
Yeah.
characters be female?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was
try to block it out.
definitely a question, but I really like the idea of more general audience books that have female leads.
Yeah, and there are some significant male characters in future
Absolutely.
books that
Yeah.
we want to do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We were pretty resolute with
Yeah,
that
I don't know,
thought
it-
it would be totally okay.
Yeah, I
two
mean-
female characters.
I mean, part of it, it's really interesting, I guess now that I think about it, so Digits was the first character that you came up with.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
and Sam
Yes.
came up with, actually.
Yes.
We were not involved in the
Yeah, we
creation
were.
of Digits. And then Debian came later, and we pitched a whole bunch of
Oh,
different
that's
lead
true. I pitched
characters.
both
Protagonists.
Both
Yeah.
female and male characters to fill the role of Debian.
Yeah.
But in the end, Debian was everyone's favorite.
Yeah, and so that's kind of how it shook out. Although I think that the vast majority of the characters that were pitched were female.
Yeah.
And now that I think about it, that's right.
Yeah. I hope we someday bring in some of those other characters because some of them
Yeah,
are really
they're
funny.
pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Miss them.
But when I was designing them, it was kind of important for me if both characters were female. For if one of them is like more stereotypically feminine, that one of them might be slightly more androgynous, which is where you get Digits.
Yeah.
Like I really like that she's slightly ambiguous.
Yeah, well, I mean, I
Because-
think the
yeah.
question that was asked was,
Yeah.
you know, I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
We're okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
So, in this book, do they know about other planets? Do they interact with them? Because there's a lot of talk about outside of just Earth.
Do you want to hear about that or?
There are definitely other planets and moons
Yes.
that have life on them.
Yes.
Yeah.
In this book. Yes.
Like their own life or human life?
At least human life.
Okay.
There is some contention between us whether aliens exist in
Yes.
the world of Debian Pearl or
We're
not.
trying to work with that.
There's some ambiguity there,
Yeah, exactly.
but we have definitely colonized other moons and asteroids and stuff, and people are living on them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is there a reason that the cover has different textures in different places?
Oh, that's a great.
That's an excellent question.
Spot gloss.
Yeah. So that's called spot glass. It is a cool printing feature that sometimes is on books, and we actually didn't know that they were going to do that until the book showed
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
We got it. We were really pleasantly
It,
surprised.
yeah.
It's just more fun. At least I think.
And did you know about the French flaps?
Yes, we
I
did
did
know
not.
about that.
French flaps, they're called.
Yes.
I don't know why they're called French flaps.
I don't know.
Does anybody know? Yeah.
Because they're fancy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Why did you guys do this illustration on the back with your...
We wanted our
Because there was that little empty space right there. And they asked, would you like to put a picture here? And I said, yes, I will draw something for that empty space.
And that's us, by the way.
And that lines up pretty well, actually. I mean,
Yeah.
I could tell.
And it was important for me to also feature Curtis, our emotional support dog,
Okay.
Which is Lauren's boxer.
who gave us lots of snuggles
Yes,
when
yeah.
we were working on the book, and it was difficult.
Almost always have an animal nearby.
I have a cat,
Oh, I have a cat too. I have two
but it
cats.
scratches me.
Oh
We
no.
do that.
She
That's
attacks
why they're
me.
licensed in the future.
She's also cute.
What else? What was the hardest part of the book for you guys?
I actually feel like the hardest part was overcoming the nerves of just like starting this book.
That's true.
Like I guess Katie and I both have had like a little bit of coding experience, and you probably have more hardware experience than I did. But I think that when we were sat down and told that we were going to be making a book about computers and computing, we were like, oh really? Okay.
Okay then.
Who told us we have to do that?
And I think just like getting over those first like few humps of like, and then like once we decided like, oh, we can do this, we can totally do this.
Yeah, I think I was more scared going into it than it actually was warranted.
Yeah.
Because I was just like, 189 pages, how? How does anyone draw a graphic novel? It
That's lots.
seems impossible.
Sure.
But when I actually started doing it, I found that I really enjoyed the longer format and just the rhythm of, planning it out and knowing exactly how much to do every week.
Yeah.
It was really nice.
The crazy people to me are the ones who do the 300 and 400 page books, because I'm just like,
I'm still confused about how you do that.
I don't know. We have a parent question in the back.
What do you like to read? What do you recommend? Or what did you read when you were their age?
Oh my god. What did I read?
I read a lot of manga. A lot of Dragon Ball Z. And I read a lot of Beano comics. I feel like you don't see those here.
You
as
don't.
much.
They're not brought in.
Yeah,
Nobody
yeah.
brings them in. Yeah.
But they're cool.
When I was your age, I read a lot of big, chunky fantasy novels. I read a lot of Dragonlance books as a kid. It's really funny because I don't actually read the same thing as an adult, but man, I just like I go to the science fiction and fantasy section of the bookstore and just like if it was big and it had a dragon on it, I wanted to read it.
Oh yeah, I totally 180 because I 100% will only read like books with dragons as
Yeah.
fantasy
So
stuff.
dragons are coming in the next couple books.
I totally flipped around though because now I'm 100% into like sci-fi. That's all I want to draw.
Yeah, I definitely read more like just like straight science fiction now than I did when I was a kid. But I read some science fiction as a kid, but man, dragons. I really like dragons.
Awesome.
What about you?
Oh gosh, I used to fall asleep with books next to me in my bed. I would like go to sleep one and I'd wake up like, where's that book? Let's read that. I read a little bit of everything. I just have definitely watched a lot of science fiction. And I feel like I would just say that Judy Blume saved my life. So yeah. And I remember reading A Wrinkle in Time as a kid and lifting my head and being like, where am I? So I did read a kind of science fiction fantasy.
Yeah.
Cool. Anyone else got questions? We've blown through them all. Oh, very good.
Why didn't you guys not read Garfield?
Oh,
read Garfield.
I read so much Garfield.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually a good point.
What comics?
I might have read more comic strips even when I was your age.
I think that's true. I mean, when I was little, like there were not, where I grew up, there were not a lot of shops like this, and when you went into a bookstore, there were not comics in the bookstore.
That's true, actually.
Were there strips though?
I was gonna say
strips.
but really the only thing that there was in terms of comics was Garfield and Far Side and Calvin and Hobbes. Yeah. I read a lot of Far Side.
I love Far Side.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I had Calvin and Hobbes memorized.
Yeah, it was a different world. You'd always go to the humor section to find the comics.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
We
true.
didn't have cool comic shops like this one.
Yeah, well, I like it. Yeah, and I'm really excited by the possibility that Farsight's coming back. That is just, to me, the most exciting
Oh my
idea.
gosh, you stole my heart.
Yeah, yeah. I hope that's what all that stuff was, and
Yeah.
it wasn't something like we're gonna reprint them or something. Yes, in the back.
What are your favorite characters in this?
Where do I start?
Oh, I really like Dizzy Lizzie, who is in one panel. But I have like such a like weird background that I just made up in my head about her, and then eventually told to Lauren and Mel, so I think they might actually like write her in at some point in time.
Where is she?
Oh,
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
The jailbreak.
we're gonna pick
she's
that.
towards the beginning
She is
for
towards
sure.
the beginning. She is.
Oh, there.
Wait,
45?
She in the
Yeah,
Pacific?
45.
45. Yeah, she shows up in that
Yeah.
that big panel at the
Yeah,
top.
top right.
She's my favorite character who has no
No lines.
Yeah.
Doesn't even have a line.
no characterization.
Yes.
She's just a picture.
Yeah, she's just on screen right now, but
She's like a futuristic YouTuber.
yeah, we
Yeah.
think she'll make it. We are honestly sure she'll make it.
I'm pulling for Dizzy Lizzie, main character in future books.
We've talked about it.
We've talked about this.
I have weird affection for Geigo Geiger
Oh, yeah.
and his horde of illegal cats. Don't hoard cats. That's bad. But
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
do love his great affection for cats.
He takes good care of all.
Yeah, he does
So
take
that's
he takes
okay.
very good care of all
Yeah,
his
as long
cats.
as they're all cats.
I like Humphrey a lot.
Yeah.
We're trying to get more.
He's like maybe my favorite character to draw
Yeah.
because he's always doing funny things in the background.
He will also get more time on page, I think.
The
Yeah.
frog.
Mm-hmm.
I like Raybot myself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've got a lot of good feedback about Raybot.
Yeah.
Special place in my heart for Uncle Sankar.
Oh, Sankar.
He's also a little bit of a grumpy adult, so
Yeah.
occasionally grumpy.
We are all Uncle Sankar.
And we all,
Yeah.
somewhere in our hearts.
Raybot was really fun to draw because I always had to be thinking about, because he doesn't have normal dialogue, like how to convey things with his screen and, you know, how he's moving and things.
We had another adult question.
Yes.
I was curious about the sandwich ingredients and if you've actually ever tried, what is kelp and peanut butter?
Oh, algae and liverwurst.
Algae and liverwurst.
Oh, this is it now. We're gonna have to make one.
Oh, I know. We're gonna have to make one. Well, we have to find commercial grade like algae, like I'm sure somebody
This
makes
is the
it.
Bay Area.
Yeah.
Down the street. 7-Eleven.
I don't eat liverwurst though. I don't.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be on me then. I'll do it.
Yeah, you'll have to eat the liverwurst.
Whose fault is that? It definitely wasn't my fault.
I was definitely responsible for the algae. I thought that algae was a very futuristic ingredient, and
I'll take liverwurst.
you'll take
Yeah,
liverwurst.
that's fine.
Yeah. That we decided was sustainably cloned liverwurst.
Yes,
Yeah.
of course.
If you do actually try it, will you film it and post it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
So Debbie and Pearl has an
This is
Instagram
now
account.
a plan.
Yes.
Debbie
Yeah.
and Pearl has an
It's at Debbie.
Yes.
So does Digits. We just have to, bake.
Yeah.
Digits is,
Digits has been quiet.
Yeah, she's been
abnormally
quiet.
quiet on
Yeah.
Instagram.
yeah, which is weird for her.
Yeah, very weird.
But that's a great idea. Thank you.
It's happening
It's
now.
happening. It's happening.
Go ahead.
Besides this comic, what's your favorite comic?
Favorite comics? Oh, no.
Oh my goodness.
That's a tough question. I have so many.
All right, first thing that pops in the head though.
My favorite comic is a book called Battle Angel Alita.
What?
Oh my! Someone just said love.
What is that?
It's very good. Honestly, I probably read it close to your age, maybe a little older.
A little older.
But I read it because when I was a kid, all of the comics were in the children's section of our library, regardless of content.
Really?
Yes,
That's
that was a thing that they used to do.
Yeah.
awkward.
Sometimes some inappropriate books would sneak their way in there because they
Yes.
were comics. Yeah. My favorite comic I think right now is Finder. By Carlos B. McNeil, and I like it because it's actually in a lot of ways it's very much like Debian Pearl in that like it's just like a lot of like weird wacky science fiction where it's just like things happen because they happen and like it has all these very complicated social structures.
Yeah,
and
my
it's very fun.
my favorite all ages book right now is what's the name of that? It's like 5 Worlds.
Oh,
Is that it?
I love Find
Yeah.
Worlds.
So,
Yeah, Find Worlds is great.
It's so cool. And I'm curious to talk to them someday, maybe, because it's another book with a big team, like way bigger than ours.
Yeah, they've got 5 or 6 on their team.
Yeah.
And 3 of them are in Oakland, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I know at least a couple of them.
We're getting close to that level though.
I know.
With Sean.
Oh yeah.
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 Mel, do you have favorite
I
comics?
have a lot, but I think they're not as
They're not.
graphic.
They're
They're the ones that shouldn't be in the children's section. But I will say that and this is kind of a pitch too. Glimpse by Samuel Satin. Is a favorite.
It's a good book. For sure. Let me just wrap this up, I guess, with a couple of process and craft questions, mostly for you, Katie. Because, comics, right?
Absolutely.
You mentioned earlier that you do layouts and then go straight to ink, which seems a little interesting to me. So what kind of, how loose are your layouts? How detailed are they?
My layouts are pretty tight, actually.
Okay.
I switched to working fully digitally a couple of years ago.
Okay.
And that's what gives me the ability to do that. Like, otherwise I would definitely have to pencil in between. But because I'm working digitally, what would normally be pencils just turns into final inks.
Sure.
Like, it's close enough that I can just put a little bit of effort in to make it like a final polished page.
Why did you make the switch?
Speed.
Speed. Okay.
Yeah. I really like having original art, so it still feels a little sad to work completely digitally. But the speed is just, there's nothing like it. Yeah.
You work on a tablet?
Yeah, I work on a Cintiq, so it has the actual screen to look at and draw on.
You're doing your own coloring?
Oh, so this book is colored by my friend Brittany Curry.
Okay. I didn't look close enough.
I'm sure
it's in
on
there.
the inside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not on the cover though.
So I colored, I think 6 or 7 pages.
Okay.
When we first got started for the announcement of the book, and then she came on later on, and based on those pages, colored everything else. And it was the first time that I'd worked extensively with a colorist, and at first I was scared because I'm just the kind of person that like wants control over everything. So at first it was hard to let go and let other people have input, but in the end it was really awesome.
Yeah, it's very bright, the coloring, and it's very kind of candy colored and poppy, and I like it a lot, but it's a really interesting contrast to kind of the Blade Runner-esque future and sort of the general darkness of the world, and yet it's incredibly bright and colorful.
Yeah.
Was there a conscious thinking behind that, or was it just, oh, that looks nice?
I mean, it's definitely just aligned with my preferences in general. But honestly, I feel like when you look at Blade Runner and then also just the streets of Tokyo, which is where the original inspiration is from if you trace it all the way back, my coloring is honestly fairly similar to that palette. It's just the saturation and the amount of colors is like cranked up all the way.
And there's no like brass and brown to balance it.
Yeah.
So
It's just like the neon signs have been upped to like 100%.
And the lettering is all digital as well, I'm assuming?
Yeah, and we had a separate team working on that too.
great job, yes.
Yeah, that was especially challenging for this book just because of all the code.
Yeah.
And well, the code and the emojis. Oh, our poor letterer.
Yeah, I felt bad for doing that too.
And actually, so Sean Marnie, who was working with us on the tail end of this book, and we hope is working with us on future books, if there are future books, he was really instrumental in working with the letterer and saying, like, you need to format this like this, and, you know, trying to make it look readable while not, like, taking over the entire page. And it was a lot of work. The letterers were heroic.
Yeah,
They really were.
Yeah, because we really wanted to make sure that the code was formatted accurately.
Yeah.
And trying to figure out how to do that in word balloons is definitely
Sure.
tricky.
Challenging.
Sure. Did you come to places maybe where you had to redraw or something because of the balance to words and the way that you had laid out the art? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So, because previously my experience is working on smaller books where I do everything, I'm used to actually putting letters in first before I draw anything.
Okay.
So, since I don't have a lot of experience leaving room for letters, I actually just dropped in all of the lettering at the start, like I normally would, to make sure that I left room. So, I think there's a couple places you can see it's a little tight, but I did manage to not have to redraw anything to create room for letters. Yeah.
Great. Fantastic. Well, I think that's my questions. Do you guys have any last questions? Your last chance. All right, great. Oh, we got one. Love it.
I really like how excessive you are with the like hat kind of thing. Where did you get the idea for the hats?
Maybe.
Oh, I love a big hat. Yeah.
Yeah. Character design.
I love a good hat, and so the shape of the hat is definitely heavily influenced by a famous artist named Mobius, who was a really big influence on my art growing up. And so it's definitely a throwback to his style. And then also, I tried to keep the theme of a lot of people having these like triangle style hats, just to show that maybe, you know, it's like a just kind of normal fashion trend in the future. Yeah.
Awesome. Fantastic. Oh, another one.
Why does Debian sprout like sprouts on your cheeks when you're breathing?
When I tell one,
Oh.
they were all excited.
I noticed. Because she's a plant person.
She's a plant, so she's a humanoid plant.
Sometimes she gets a little bushy.
Wait, she does?
What page is that?
Very early on.
Very early on, it starts to rain.
Yeah, it starts to rain on her, and she starts to sprout a little bit.
That's another thing that's cool about Katie's artwork is she leaves so many cool details that if you probably read it more than once.
Page 9.
Yeah. Find all the cool things she'll leave.
Yeah.
To discover.
There are lots
This
of
one.
fun things in
Yes.
yes. Yeah. So she sometimes sprouts a little bit.
Yeah.
And she hates it when there's an umbrella over her.
Oh, sorry. What was that?
Doesn't like it when there's an umbrella over her.
She wanted to feel the rain on her face.
She likes a good shower and some sunlight, I think, or some
She
of her
needs
favorite
both.
things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Secrets. There's more secrets to find.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh.
There are more secrets to find in
Yes.
this book.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah. So
Nice,
if you read
nice.
it more than once, do look. It's pretty.
And so
That's a lot for you.
just to swing back to the earlier question, have you guys started work on the second book yet, or is it still to be determined if it's coming out?
We have
A draft.
started working on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There's some behind the scenes things that we can't really talk about. But
Sure.
But you know, we're hoping the art will start soon.
yeah.
But
Very
the
good.
story
Because it's
has
just
been-
about ready to go.
It is. And
Excellent.
we are very excited about it.
I'd love to see more. You guys would all love to see more, right?
Yes.
Yes,
So happy.
We're yeah, all right. Oh, that's funny. All right. So that was the book is Debian Pearl, Digital Detective, and The Memory Thief is the subtitle. Well, I didn't put that in any of the stuff. If you're watching at home and you haven't gone out and gotten this book yet, I would thoroughly recommend it. It's a fantastic book. It's a lot of fun. It's smart. It's got some stuff about coding. It's going to teach you something, but it's not preachy. It's just kind of a perfect book. And so I definitely want to thank Lauren, Katie, and Mel for coming out and talking to us about it. I want to thank all of you for coming out and talking with the book with us. I want to thank The Beat for sponsoring every month. Thank you very much. And then next month, we'll give you a little preview. I don't have the book yet, so you can't pick it up today. But next month's book is called The OK Witch. And this is a really good book by Emma Steinkellner. And she is here on October 20th. So you can mark your calendars now. The next one of these will be October 20th. With that, and again, this book is Debian Pearl, so go get it. We will bid you adieu until next month. Thanks very much.